Hello, I'm Ollie, and this is Criminolly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today, no crime, no pulp, no horror. I've got a library tour of kind of general fiction type books. I feel like I didn't really sell this in the intro. I've got another bag of books down from the attic, and when I got them out of the bag and sort of looked through them, I was thinking, I'm never going to read any of these. I don't know why I've got half these books. Anyway, we will go through them. There are some good books in here, but yeah, they're just not really the sort of thing I'm into at the moment. So we shall see how we get on. Anyway, there's a few hardbacks here as well, which is unusual for me. I'm normally a paperback kind of a guy, but there are some hardbacks here. So anyway, let me go through. I think there's about 20 odd books, so it shouldn't take too long. So yes, I haven't read any of these. Do let me know in the comments if you have. Let me know if there's any that you think I will particularly enjoy, and I will potentially jump onto one of those rather than one of the others. So anyway, let's go through. So first up, I have Starter for 10 by David Nichols. Now I have to say I have read a couple of David Nichols books, and I really enjoyed both of them. What have I read? I've read One Day, which was excellent, and Us, I think the other one was called, which was also really good. And this was like a cheap find in a charity shop, so I thought I'd pick it up. The cover's a bit annoying, isn't he? He's a bit sort of smug looking, that guy, but I think it's supposed to be quite entertaining. It's about, I assume it's about University Challenge. Yes. So yes, we shall see. I think I would be surprised if at least some people haven't read that one. Next up, we have The Goldfinch by Donna Tartt, which is her third novel, I think. So I have read The Secret History, which I absolutely loved. It took me about 4 goes to read it. I first started trying to read it when I was at university, funnily enough, and failed, and then tried a couple of other times. And then finally, a couple of years ago, I managed to finish it. I suspect the same will be true of The Goldfinch. I haven't tried to read The Goldfinch yet. I have tried to read The Little Friend, her second book, at least once, maybe twice, and failed. But I'm going to, because I ended up loving The Secret History so much, I am going to hang on to both The Goldfinch and The Little Friend, which I think I've got on my Kindle, and keep persevering until one day, maybe after I've retired, I manage to finish them both. Next up, I don't know what this is, and I don't know why it's in my bag of books, because I definitely didn't buy this. This might be a book that my mother-in-law lent my wife or something like that. It's called Her Last Promise by Catherine Hughes. It was a winner of the Prima Book Awards. Prima, if you don't know, is a women's magazine in the UK. In the heart of Spain lies a secret. I don't think I'll ever read that. Next up, another charity shop pickup, Go Set a Watchman by Harper Lee, which obviously was published with much fanfare a few years ago. Will I ever read this? I don't know. I'm tempted to say I won't, because there was a bit of, not controversy exactly, but I think a few people did question whether or not it should really be published, given that Harper Lee didn't really want it to be published, or she would have had it published. So yeah, I don't know. Next up, this one was a present from my parents. I haven't read it yet, which is terrible. This Lovely City by Louise Hare, which I think is about kind of the jazz age. It's supposed to be really, really good. It did get fantastic reviews. But yeah, I have not read it. And it's, let's be honest, it's not really my kind of thing, is it? Yeah. More not my kind of thing. I've got Uncommon Type by Tom Hanks, which I think is supposed to be, I think people's reaction to this book who've read it is, it's really nice that Tom Hanks wrote a book, and he seems like a really lovely guy, but it's not very good. So yeah, I don't know if I will read this, but again, I think I got it very cheap in the charity shop. Another hardback, which I'll probably never read, Landline by Rainbow Rowell. So I read some of her YA books and quite enjoyed those. This is an adult romance. So I don't know, maybe I'll read it one day, but I think I prefer trashy romance to this, which I think is a bit more kind of attempting to be classy romance. Gosh, here's another book I'm never going to read. How to Build a Girl by Caitlin Moran. I don't really understand who Caitlin Moran is, other than she publishes books, because I don't think that's who she is, if that makes sense. I think she does something else, but I don't know what that is. Is she a journalist or something? Anyway, that's a book. I quite like the cover design, but I don't think I'll ever read it. Here's another one. I have tried to read this in the past, On the Road by Jack Kerouac, of course. His name's somewhat hidden by the sticker there, which I've forgotten to take off. I probably should read this, but I did try and read it when I was a teenager, and I suspect if you can't read this when you're a teenager, then trying to read it when you're nearly 50 is probably not a good idea. This one I will read at some point. My Uncle Oswald by Roald Dahl. So I love Roald Dahl's adult short fiction. This is one of his few, I don't know if he did more than one adult novels or not, to be honest with you. This may be the only adult novel he wrote. But yeah, it's supposed to be very good. And as I say, I do really like his short fiction for adults. So I will probably read that at some point. And I will also probably read this because I do like John Ronson. So this is Lost at Sea by John Ronson. So if you don't know John Ronson, he is a British journalist who writes kind of quirky books. So I think his most famous book is probably The Psychopath Test, which is pretty good. And he also wrote The Men Who Stare at Goats, which was very good, which was filmed with George Clooney. So this is about, I don't know what it's about. Oh, it's about people with strange beliefs. So yes, that could be quite interesting. And he's a very amusing and entertaining writer. Right, what's next? Arrow of God by Chinua Achebe. I think I pronounced that correctly, which I think is the second book. I think I bought this, and it's actually the second book in the series, so I never read it. It's supposed to be excellent, but yeah. Next up, we have The Thousand Autumns of Jacob de Zoet, if I pronounce that correctly, by David Mitchell. So I have read Cloud Atlas by Mitchell, and I really, really liked Cloud Atlas. So I picked this up, again, cheap. I think it was in a library sale. Thinking I would probably read it one day, given how much I like Cloud Atlas. But whether I will or not, I don't know. Next up, A Case of Exploding Mangoes by Mohammed Khanif. I can't remember where I got this. I'm not sure if it was a gift from someone. But it sounds quite interesting. Is it non-fiction or fiction? It's fiction. But it's about a kind of weird conspiracy plot. So it looks quite entertaining, but it doesn't particularly grab me, if I'm honest. Right, here's some more. Home Fire by Camilla Shamsi. So I think I've got this on my Kindle as well. And this is another one that's supposed to be really, really good, but just looks a bit like, I don't know, kind of slightly challenging modern fiction, which isn't really my kind of thing. It won the Women's Prize for Fiction. I've got nothing against the Women's Prize for Fiction, but it's not something that makes me want to run out and read a book. The fact that it has read that prize. Another book, now this I think is signed. Yes, signed and dedicated to me. And I've had it for years. I think, again, my parents gave me this. It came out in 1997. So I think they probably got it for me in 1997. So 25 years ago. And I still haven't read it. But anyway, it's Every Secret Thing by Jillian Slovo, which is about her experiences of living in South Africa. Which is a fascinating subject, but again, not one I necessarily want to read about. This one I'm pretty confident I won't read. So when I was in my strange and regrettable YA phase a few years ago, I did read a few John Green books. So I read, what did I read? I read Looking for Alaska, and what else did I read? The Fault in Our Stars, and I think another one as well. But I haven't yet read this one, Paper Towns. Although it looks like I lent it to somebody, because there's a post-it inside that says, "Thank you, it was awesome." But I don't know who that's from. So if you're watching, which is unlikely, do let me know. Right, I said this was all fiction. This one's actually non-fiction, but it does sound quite interesting. So it's Riding Rockets by astronaut Mike Mullane. So it's a book about being an astronaut, which has got to be quite interesting, hasn't it? And apparently it's outrageous as well. So yes, this was recommended to me by someone I know through watch collecting, who's I think she's a helicopter pilot or something like that. So she kind of felt like a good person to recommend a book about being an astronaut. And she said it was very good. So yes, maybe I'll read that one day. Next up, something else meaningful and challenging, which I think I did try to read this. So I was given this as a Secret Santa present for a bookish Secret Santa that I organised. So I don't actually know who gave it to me. It's Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, which obviously is an absolute classic of American fiction. But yeah, I haven't read it, and it's really long. It's like nearly 600 pages long and very challenging, and I suspect I won't read it. It's becoming a bit of a theme in this one, isn't it? Right, what have we got next? We have got a heartbreaking work of staggering genius by Dave Eggers, which is one of those books that, again, is supposed to be really, really good, but it's quite big, and I don't know if I really want to read it or not. It's got a weird bit of cardboard inside it. I don't know. Maybe someone who's read it can explain why it's got that weird bit of cardboard inside it. Yeah, I think a friend of mine read this and thought it was amazing, but I can't really see myself reading it, if I'm honest. And then finally, actually not finally, I've still got a few to go. You may or may not be glad to hear that. Right, so I've got 2 books of the Arabian Nights stories. So Aladdin and Other Tales from the 1001 Nights, which is a new translation by N.J. Dawood. But what I would say is it was new in 1957 when this came out. And then by the same translator, The 1001 Nights, The Hunchback, Sinbad and Other Tales. So these are rather lovely, nice old penguin editions, pre-decimalisation. And I would like to read the Arabian Nights stories at some point. So I probably will read these, but I may well read them on my Kindle rather than reading these paperbacks, which look in danger of falling apart. Next I've got Round the Bend by Neville, which is one of my dad's favourite books, and I think this is his copy. So I should probably give it back to him if I'm, given that I've had it for a couple of years and still haven't read it. But he absolutely loves this book and loves Neville Shute. Okay, next up, The Bullet Trick by Louise Welch, or Welch rather. So I read her book, The Cutting Room, which is mentioned on the front here, and thought it was excellent. I don't remember what it was about, but I remember really enjoying it. So I should probably give this a try at some point. It's got a very cool cover. But yes, I have not yet got to that one either. And that leaves me with 2 Spike Milligan books. I can't remember where I've got to in Spike Milligan's War Diaries. I can't remember if I've read this one or not. I'd have to check on Goodreads, but I've got them all on my Kindle and I'm working my way through them. So this is the 3rd volume in his War Diaries. Monty, His Part in My Victory. So Spike Milligan, if you don't know, is a very famous English comedian. And then I've also got Puckoon, also by Spike Milligan, which I did try and read a couple of years ago, didn't manage to, but it is rather nice and it's got amusing illustrations as well. And then finally, this huge book, which really appealed to me when I bought it and I still haven't read, and it is like 900 pages long. And I think I started it and it just immediately was really complicated. I mean, it's a really nicely put together book and it's got lots of like weird stuff like pages with black margins and things like that. So it certainly looks interesting, and it's got great blurbs as well, but it's just so big. I can't imagine myself reading a book this long at the moment that wasn't either like a big fantasy epic or the 5 Omen novels read back to back, which I did the other day. I suspect they're more fun than this, but who knows, maybe it's fantastic. Anyway, that was my rather disjointed and unenthusiastic tour through the latest box of books from the attic. So yeah, do let me know if you've read any of these and if you think I should give them my attention. If not, I think I may well end up unhauling some of these, because I've got far too many books and most of these books I don't think I'll ever read. So yeah, anyway, let me know what you thought. As always, hope you're safe and well, hope you're really good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.